Now, when I talk about despiritualization, what do I mean? Drawing from the Greeks, Western thinkers have all gone down this same road. So we know of Freud, Sigmund Freud, who is um, the dominant thinker in psychology and psychiatry. I think Carl Jung, among the Western thinkers, was better because he had an appreciation of the spirit and he wrote more. But the one who's had the greatest impact has been Sigmund Freud. And what did he say? He said, we must eliminate spirituality from psychoanalytic theory. And he reduced psychology to a despiritualized system. And I think one reason why psychologists and psychiatrists cannot cure their patients, whatever their disorder is. And I think most of the disorders that people face in the West, paranoia, schizophrenia, delusion, depression, many of these have to do with a sick society. And if you're living in a sick society, it's going to create human sickness. But what's interesting is Africans, Native Americans, and other people of color in their traditional systems can actually heal people who have psychological imbalance. Why? Because they heal the whole person, not just the mind. They heal the spirit and they heal the body. In Africa, they, if there's a problem of mental imbalance, psychological imbalance, they treat the whole family. Why? Because that disorder is going to create a certain kind of imbalance in the family. And if you're going to heal somebody, it's in a collective sense. So, but despiritualization in psychology means removing spirit from psychology. Dr. Wade Nobles, one of our leading psychologists, one of the founders of the movement of Black psychology, says he doesn't really define himself as a psychologist anymore because he's into the realm of spirit, So you need a spirit. If you're going to have psychology, you need a spirit psychology, if you're going to be able to heal people. Descartes, as we all know, created the mind-body split. He had this thing that he calls, I think, therefore I am. By the way, Descartes' statement about I think, therefore I am came from a dream. And that is actually true. You are your thoughts. In fact, thoughts are matter, meaning anything that is material that we have created comes from our thoughts. But coming out of the materialistic, despiritualized Western worldview and philosophy, Descartes viewed this as mind minus spirit, and therefore he creates the mind-body split, separating the mind from the body. He acted like it would be great if he didn't have a body. Well, when you go to the next realm, you actually have a spirit body. But on this realm, the body is the temple for the soul and for the spirit. And so if you're going to deny, spirit, then really even the mind cannot work appropriately. It's not going to work correctly. So he misinterpreted this, or he interpreted this through the lens of a Aryan or despiritualized worldview. Descartes is also a mathematical physicist, and he is one of many who took a realm of science that is spirit-based or energy-based. Science is basically a advanced science of energy, or waves and particle. But Western physicists have treated energy like it's matter, like it's a material thing. Descartes said he didn't care about what waves and particles were. He simply wanted to know how to control energy so that he could have power. And that power would be a power over nature. And that power would, as he put it, be power over the lower regions, meaning the countries of Africa, Asia, and Native America. So lacking a understanding of energy, which is what everything is made of, then Western physicists are in a bind. They're in a dead end because they do not have a philosophy that explains this. Easterners, if they followed their own system, and too many Asians are following the Western system, too many Africans are, but if they followed their own system, they would probably call this energy Tao, T-A-O, the way, the invisible way of the cosmos. And we could call it Ma'at, the invisible way of the cosmos, which is ethical, which is based on truth. But lacking this, then we have a science that could contribute a lot to the world and has, but now can also follow a destructive course as well. So despiritualization goes to the point, well, as well, of separating the mind from the spirit. And when the mind operates free of the spirit, it operates on the lower plane of greed, of hatred, of power. Nietzsche, who is the best of the modern Western thinkers, because he best describes their mindset, which he described as will to power, ended up in an insane asylum, or ended up insane because he was pursuing the idea that the dominant force of history, the dominant value, is a will to power. That is the drive to control and dominate. And that has been, and this is why he's brilliant, that has been the major drive of Western history and Western culture. But he tried to make this a law. He said this was a law for the human species. Domination. When in fact, that is an outgrowth of an Aryan or European view. So some African Americans have been infected with this despiritualized thought, particularly the more highly educated. Not all, but some. And worst of all, those who begin to assume leadership who have no appreciation of the spirit, mind, body connection, because through spirit and mind comes compassion, comes care, comes identifying with the human condition. But if you separate that mind from the spirit, which is an intellectual exercise, because the human being is basically a spirit that's having a human experience. But if you think that way, then you take on this view of the West of objectivity. And so when you're coming in and exploiting people like the Republicans are doing in the Senate right now, voting against, or at least pressuring, and then a few moderate Democrats taking their side, pressuring against a minimum wage of $15 an hour, which when in almost every senator is a millionaire. Put them on $7 an hour, which is the minimum wage right now. Who can live on that? But when you have this despiritualized mindset and you're serving the interests of the greedy and the hateful, the racist, you can do that. You can be inhumane. So despiritualization is a clear and present danger to humanity, to the planet. And so it has to die. That mindset has to die to save the planet. Fortunately for Africans in this country, Africans around the world, our cultures are spirit-based. And so we have in the spirituals this song that was Fannie Lou Hamer's favorite song. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine, you know, saying that the spirit that is within me, I want it to shine. Our culture is based on that. So this is an antidote coming out of African-American culture, African Caribbean culture, African culture to this despiritualization. But we find the best models for this coming out of the deep structure of African culture. Other people of color have this in their own deep structure. So our biggest problem globally as a people is that we have, because of the intrusion of slavery and colonialism and the intrusion of the white system of thought, the white system of economics, the white system of education, many of us have come to lose confidence in our own way, in our own culture. And in fact, many of us don't even know what it is, because we have assumed that there's no progress in being African. We must become mental Europeans, and then out of that, we can get a good job.